An emotional win for AJ Allmendinger and an emotional defeat as several championship hopefuls are eliminated. How's it going, y'all? My name is Eric. Welcome to Out of the Groove post-Charlotte Roval. The round of 12 has ended. The 16-driver playoff field has been cut in half. We have our Elite 8. Lots to get to tonight. We'll talk about the 4 drivers eliminated. Where do they go from here? We'll also take a look at the top playoff performers. We'll put this race on the groovy gauge at the end. Did NASCAR make the right decision bringing stage cautions back to road courses? Did NASCAR make the right call bringing the Roval back for the 2024 schedule? All of that and more, but let's begin with the winner. AJ Allmendinger gets his first win of 2023, the third Cup Series win of his career at a third different road course. His first win came almost a decade ago, 2014 at Watkins Glen. Then 2 years ago, he won at the Indianapolis road course. I remember, I was there. And then tonight at the Charlotte Roval. AJ was very emotional during the cool down lap. He was emotional talking to NBC on the front straightaway. He was emotional going out into the crowd to celebrate with the fans. Man, those Charlotte Motor Speedway fans have been treated well this year. First, Blaney went and partied with them in May. Now AJ? Party City in Concord, North Carolina. And then AJ celebrating with Matt Collig in Victory Lane. Anytime AJ Allmendinger wins a NASCAR race, especially a Cup Series race, he's known to celebrate like there's no tomorrow. And not to bring things down a bit, but in this case, there might not be a tomorrow for AJ Allmendinger. His 2024 plans are still far from certain. Speaking to reporters earlier this weekend, as a matter of fact, AJ admitted that he'd prefer to race in Cup next year, but ultimately he will do whatever Colleague Racing feels is the best for their business. Whether that's AJ going back to Xfinity, staying in Cup, filling out some other sort of role. AJ was very emotional tonight because this very well could be his final Cup Series win. I hope it's not. AJ Allmendinger clearly has plenty left in the tank, still one of the best road course racers in stock car racing today, but you could just feel it. There's a little extra weight behind this win here tonight. I don't know what Colleague is going to do next year. They've got Daniel Hemrick in the 31. The 16 is still an unknown. AJ Allmendinger told reporters this weekend that it's, a business, it's a money thing. Is there a driver out there with sponsorship they could put in the 16 instead? AJ Allmendinger is probably the most qualified candidate they're considering. But also you have to look at it from this perspective. Next year, the number of road courses in the regular season has nearly been cut in half. This year, there were 5 road courses in the regular season. Next year, with Watkins Glen moving into the playoffs and Indianapolis returning to the Oval, there's only 3. Coda, Sonoma, Chicago. No disrespect to AJ Allmendinger. He's a fine driver on ovals, but his bread and butter is the road courses. And under this current format, win and you're in. 5 shots on road courses. AJ Allmendinger's got a shot at winning one of them. This year it took him until race 6, unfortunately, but he's still got to win this year. 1 for 6. That's a pretty great ratio. I'd bet on that. With only 3 road courses scheduled for the regular season next year, I do wonder if that will factor into Matt Colleague and Chris Rice's decision. I can't say enough about AJ Allmendinger's performance tonight, though. He had William Byron bearing down on him in the closing laps, the winningest driver in Cup all season. Before Byron got to him, he had Kyle Busch, Rowdy, bearing down on him. Rowdy clearly didn't have the car Allmendinger had, but he had everything to race for. Kyle Busch's playoff life was on the line. And AJ Allmendinger, with all that going on his rear bumper right there in his rearview mirror, he kept his cool. Barely put a wheel wrong and gets the win. Very impressive driving from Allmendinger. Those final few restarts, those final few laps. Happy for AJ, happy for Colleague Racing. If in fact this does wind up being AJ Allmendinger's final Cup Series win, which I hope it's not, what a way to go out. Great performance, great win for AJ Allmendinger. Now let's shift our focus more towards the playoff field. Let's talk about Kyle Busch for a moment. Finished 3rd, valiant effort, but comes up short. Kyle Busch has been eliminated here in the round of 12. These playoffs were awkward, disjointed, finished a lap down at Bristol, his best track, wrecked out at Texas to begin this round. This team was in a borderline must-win scenario entering this race, and they played it like it was a must-win. At the end of stage 1, they gave up a few stage points to ensure better track position at the start of stage 2, and they did the same thing at the end of stage 2 to ensure they'd be up front to start stage 3. They kept their track position when it mattered most. Unfortunately, they just didn't have the same pace as AJ Allmendinger or even William Byron at the end. But finally, Kyle Busch and RCR put together a complete weekend. It was just too little too late. They were fast in practice yesterday, qualified top 5 yesterday, ran top 5 today, played the right strategy to maintain that track position. They finished top 5. It just wasn't enough. I would consider this a good first season for Kyle Busch and Richard Childress Racing. It didn't turn out to be the revenge tour we all thought it might turn into when he won the second race of the year at Auto Club Speedway, but it was still a really good season. 3 wins, round of 12, something to build off for next year. You cut down on the DNFs. Both Busch and his teammate Austin Dillon are among the league leaders in DNFs this year. Something they could certainly improve on for next year. There's room to grow. Round of 12 is obviously not their ceiling. We saw this team is a championship contending team when they're firing on all cylinders. So there's still reason to be optimistic going into next season. But Kyle Busch, unfortunately, is out. Let's continue to look at some of the top finishers here. Ty Gibbs, effectively his replacement at JGR, solid top 5 effort, not in the playoffs this season, but I kind of want to echo what the folks on NBC were talking about today. Ty Gibbs has continued to improve throughout this rookie season. I expect him to be a playoff contender next year. Great top 5 tonight. Joey Logano, top 5, already eliminated from the playoffs. Tyler Reddick finishes a strong 6th. Reddick entered this race, I believe, 2 points below the cut line, but if you watched my video on Friday, I was not worried. Tyler Reddick is arguably the best road course racer in the Cup Series these days. He's got 3 wins on road courses since the next-gen era began. Another great performance this weekend, won the pole. Unlike Kyle Busch and others, Reddick went for stage points. They stayed out and won stage 1, 10 points. Lost all that track position, but were still able to move forward. Some guys pit in front of him, was able to finish 4th in stage 2, 7 more stage points. Reddick collected more stage points today than anyone else. Lost all his track position again, but then in stage 3, thanks maybe in part to many restarts and cautions, was able to work his way back into the top 10, get a great finish. Tyler Reddick is moving on. Bounced in the round of 16 a year ago, first year with 2311. Yeah, this has been a huge success. Round of 8, great clutch performance by Tyler Reddick and his 2311 racing team today. The driver he bounced out, who came into this race only 2 points to the good, unfortunately was Brad Keselowski, who you do not see pictured here. Finished 18th today. We all saw this coming, right? Talladega was a flop. Crashed out late. Remember, spinning Hocevar got caught up in that incident, DNF'd. Brad Keselowski was the 15 seed. Not a lot of playoff points to his credit. Knowing that, and also knowing there was a road course in this round, Keselowski's best finish on a road course this year was 15th. Talladega was their opportunity. When they missed that, I knew he was in trouble. Made a mistake early in this race, missing the front stretch chicane, I believe, lost a ton of track position. They tried a few different pit strategies, just Hail Mary, some desperation moves, and unfortunately nothing worked out. Brad Keselowski, after a great standout season, despite not finding victory lane, is out of the playoffs here in the round of 12. Looking back at our top finishers here, Brad Keselowski's RFK teammate, Chris Buescher, though, with a solid top 10, he is moving on to the round of 8. So RFK, not all bad. They still got one car through to the second to last round. If you told us at the beginning of the year that one RFK Ford would be out in the round of 12 and the other would make it at least to the round of 8, I think RFK would have taken that. I think that would have been viewed as a very successful season. Chris Buescher moves on. Real quick, not in the driver playoffs, but Chase Elliott, want to give him a shout out. To come back and finish inside the top 10 after having to pit out of sequence with a flat tire late in this race, that's pretty impressive. He had a great car, 2-time Roval winner. I'm not surprised he was fast yet again today. But looking lower, top 10 for Ross Chastain, not bad at all. He was driving up through the field at the end with slightly fresher tires. Unfortunately comes up just short. Ross Chastain has also been eliminated from the playoffs. I wish I could point to something else, but it was bad luck at Talladega that did him in. Remember at the end of stage 1 last week when Stenhouse ran out of gas, Busch was caught up behind him. Chastain unfortunately got clipped and caught up in that. I think he finished last week, right? He DNF'd. Chastain snuck his way to a top 5, a second place run at Texas to open this round. I was impressed, but wrecking out at Talladega, man, that was tough to come back from. Chastain earned 13 stage points today. Unfortunately, other bubble drivers like Reddick, Bubba Wallace earned just as many or more, so it didn't do him as many favors as I thought it would. But still, a valiant effort from Ross Chastain. Trackhouse as a team clearly didn't have the same consistent speed they had last season. I don't know, we can make up any hypothetical we want. At the end of the day, getting crashed at Talladega screwed their round of 12 effort. Second at Texas, 10th at the Roval. That should be good enough to move on. It's just hard to overcome a last at this point in the playoffs. Tough break for Ross Chastain. So we've got Kyle Busch, Brad Keselowski, Ross Chastain eliminated. Joining them, unfortunately, is Bubba Wallace. Bubba Wallace finished 16th today. Not bad at all when you consider he got flat out wrecked when Daniel Suarez missed the backstretch chicane, clipped Cindric, who hooked Bubba. Bubba then had to serve a penalty because he missed the corner. Well, okay. And I think he cycled out to like 33rd. Came back from 33rd in the closing laps, final couple of restarts to finish 16th. That's respectable. But Bubba came into this race 9 points out. And he's not known for being a great road course racer, but the Charlotte Roval has always been a bit different. He was 7th here a year ago, and this weekend qualified inside the top 5. Finished inside the top 5 in stage 1, earned himself a bunch of stage points. Whoa! Once they got cycled to the back in stage 2, they weren't able to work their way through the field as well as their teammate Tyler Reddick was, but Bubba Wallace was still battling for a spot around 10th, 11th place, late in stage 3. He was still going to need some help from those in front of him, like, Larson or Truex. He was going to need somebody to spin out or crash, but he had at least put himself in a respectable position, was fighting for a top 10 at the Roval in an elimination race when that backstretch crash happened. Kind of like Brad Keselowski, Talladega was a missed opportunity for Bubba. Good super speedway racer, but didn't collect any stage points last week. I think finished outside the top 20. When last weekend didn't go well, we knew this was going to be an uphill battle. Still, Bubba Wallace, I think, should be proud of this season. First ever playoff appearance. Not only that, made it out of the round of 16, advanced to the round of 12. No number 16 seed has ever made it past this round. I know Bubba's going to kick himself for how Texas played out. He had a shot at the win there. But bigger picture, Bubba Wallace proved he belongs this year. He showed he's a capable playoff driver. That's a big step. That is a step for Bubba Wallace. The next step is proving you can make a deep playoff run and contend for a championship 4 spot. That's the next step. But to take this step from fringe contender to actual playoff contender, that is a big deal. I know he wanted to win a race. I know once he got to the round of 12, he wanted to get to the round of 8. But big picture, Bubba Wallace took a big step forward this year. That's something to build on. That's something to be proud of. But there you go. 4 drivers eliminated. Busch, Keselowski, Chastain, and Wallace. Let's take a look at how the round of 8 points reset. William Byron bubbles to the top of the grid. Martin Truex Jr. now slots into second. Let's talk about Martin Truex Jr. for a moment because once again, he survives barely. 6 races into the playoffs, and the regular season champion, Martin Truex Jr., has still not managed a single top 15 finish. He can't keep getting away with this, can he? In the closing laps of this race, I swear he was doing everything he could to possibly blow it. I mean, I saw, Corey LaJoie got into him. I'm not sure whose fault that was. Truex almost wrecked then. And then with a couple laps to go, Truex got up wide and scraped the outside wall. I was like, my gosh, Martin, come on. Just coast at this point, man. He's back to the top of the grid, or, second place, takes advantage of those regular season points he collected. The regular season matters, folks. Don't let anyone lie to you. But gosh, 6 weeks ago, he was my championship pick. Now, man, I keep waiting for him to flip that switch to show some of that regular season champion consistency again. But 6 races in now, I think that circuit's dead. That switch doesn't do anything. It's not working. Let me put it this way. Truex may have survived these last 2 rounds. He's not surviving the round of 8 unless something dramatically changes. He's going to need at least a couple top 15 finishes, methinks. His teammate, Denny Hamlin, kind of an ugly weekend, but had enough points in the bank to clinch a spot in the next round. He spun out in qualifying, spun out twice during the race today, brought out one of those final cautions. Still, he's through to the next round. Kyle Larson had to battle from behind this weekend. Made contact with the outside wall in practice yesterday. They actually had to go to a backup car. Started dead last, but was able to move his way forward, avoid the chaos. Then look at the rest of these drivers. Chris Buescher, been a great story all year. He gets RFK a spot in this round. Same with Tyler Reddick, gets 23-11, a spot in the round of 8. That's huge. Christopher Bell, I had high expectations for Bell at the beginning of this year. Been a little too inconsistent for my liking, and even today, ran a decent race until he cleaned out Daniel Suarez. I don't know why he would try to make an enemy this late in the playoffs, but lo and behold, Bell is through to the round of 8 for the second consecutive year. And then Ryan Blaney, thanks to his photo finish victory at Talladega before the disqualification of Kevin Harvick, he's through to the round of 8 as well. I believe my pre-playoff predictions, I think I got 6 of these 8 correct. I didn't have Bell making it through. I thought he'd be eliminated in the round of 12 originally. And Ryan Blaney, I didn't expect him to get out of the round of 16. But once he did, to my credit, I did pick him to win Talladega. So I got 6 out of these 8 correct before the playoffs began. Later this week, we'll talk Championship 4. Now that we've seen these drivers race 6 straight weeks under playoff pressure, maybe my Championship 4 picks have changed just a little bit. But there you have it, a look at the round of 8 points now that they have reset. Let's put this race on the groovy gauge. Let's talk Charlotte Roval for a moment. This track brings out strong opinions from fans, drivers, everyone. I think there are some folks who are excited, maybe a bit surprised to see the Roval on next year's schedule. Others, we heard some drivers say it this weekend, were honestly disappointed. I hate to do this, but I'm somewhere in the middle. I like having a road course in the playoffs. I know next year with Watkins Glen in the playoffs, perhaps that removes the need for a Charlotte Roval in the postseason. Watkins Glen can be that road course. But this year at least, I like having a road course in the playoffs, and Charlotte fits that slot on the schedule nicely. At the same time, though, the next-gen car races so well at intermediate ovals. The Coca-Cola 600 the past 2 years has been absolutely fantastic, must-see TV, that I kind of want to see 2 of those kinds of races every year. Not 2 600-milers, but make this a 400-miler, 500-miler. Give it a different feel from the Coke 600. Make it a day race, not a day to night. Give it a different vibe, but maybe keep it on the oval. Hey, I can support that as well. Again, I come down somewhere in the middle. First half of this race day was a bit dry, but the second half, playoff implications, drivers mid-pack beating and banging. As road courses go, I think the Roval consistently puts on one of the best shows in the NASCAR Cup Series. This track has only existed for 5-6 years, and I can name several super memorable moments off the top of my head. Obviously, the finish in 2018 with Johnson and Truex, Blaney sneaking through. 2019, Chase Elliott's recovery after head first into the wall. The Xfinity Series racing in a monsoon. Was that 2020? Elliott versus Harvick in 2021. In 2022, Christopher Bell charging through the field late on fresher tires to win in a clutch scenario. This year, an emotional win for AJ Allmendinger, an action-packed stage 3. As road courses go, the Roval has consistently delivered, in my opinion. So I'm torn. The oval race is better. Next year, you've got Watkins Glen in the playoffs. You probably don't need the Charlotte Roval too. That being said, the Roval has been consistently more action-packed than most other NASCAR Cup Series road courses. So I'm somewhere in the middle. I'm also torn when it comes to the return of stage cautions on road courses, which we haven't had any stage caution breaks on road courses this year until today. NASCAR brought them back just for this race weekend because they needed something to spice up a playoff race. I'm a big fan of stage racing overall. I'm neutral when it comes to stage breaks, but the idea of rewarding points midway through an event, stage wins, playoff points translating into the postseason, I love all that. I don't love stage cautions on road courses. NASCAR brought them back because the Indy road course and the Watkins Glen race went almost caution-free. There wasn't enough action for their liking. I get why they brought them back. It's easier to implement stage cautions and more restarts than it is to fix the next-gen car at this point, but that is ultimately the issue. The next-gen car races too well at road courses. The charm of NASCAR road racing 5-10 years ago was that the cars didn't fit this style of racing. Drivers were having to wheel these things past their abilities. Led to more mistakes, more action. It was more fun. The next-gen car is not as fun on road courses, so NASCAR has to manually implement more restarts, more cautions to keep the action close. At one point during this race, NBC had to explain to their TV audience how Chase Elliott winning stage 2 was actually a bad thing. Isn't that crazy? Imagine you're a new fan casually tuning in and you hear that. Wait, this guy won the stage. Isn't that great? Oh, that's a bad thing? How the hell are you supposed to explain that? I've always hated that you have to choose between stage points you've earned and setting yourself up with more track position to potentially go for the win. That shouldn't be a trade-off you're forced to make. So I'm still not a fan of stage yellows at road courses, but I understand you need action in the playoffs, and the next-gen car can't be fixed this season. Probably won't be dramatically fixed for next season either. So I don't know what NASCAR does. NASCAR's going to do this until something changes with the car. I hope they're working on something. Goodyear, engines, horsepower. I don't know. I don't want to beat a dead horse. But yeah, back to the groovy gauge. My bad. It's just sitting over here collecting dust. I'm going to give this race a 75%. I love that it came down to the end. Byron bearing down on AJ Allmendinger. Close finish. Exciting winner. Kyle Busch right there. So close, but so far. Typically, road course stage yellows result in two different strategies. Today, there was actually a third briefly when Christopher Bell and Adam Stevens were able to honestly take advantage of the gap they had created to only lose a couple of stage points, but still gain track position at the end of stage one. I thought that was brilliant. Great decision considering the playoff situation they were in. I thought it was a very good overall race. 75% for me, but let me know what your score would be down in the comment section below. That's going to do it though. Another Charlotte Roval race in the books. Thanks for watching, y'all. Leave a like if you enjoyed. Subscribe if you're new to the channel. We talk NASCAR nearly every single day. And as always, huge thank you to my Patreon supporters. I will talk to y'all later this week. We are in the home stretch. Have a wonderful rest of your weekend, folks.